Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, you are watching Off the Track, and it is time to drop the hammer.
All right, folks, welcome back to another Wednesday of Off the Track, episode number 15. And you guys don't see this, but I should mention, this is the first time that Bennett and I are by ourselves in the studio with no production team. When I say production team, I mean Carissa behind the camera. So we're kind of on our own here for this intro, but welcome back to another episode. Great to be here in the studio, episode number 15. Bennett, we're going to talk about it a little bit more as we get into this, but you had a pretty exciting weekend.
Yeah, absolutely. As you can see here right behind me, we have the Enduro Mayhem trophy that I brought home this weekend, and the video just went up on today, which is Monday. And also a quick mention, it is currently 9 p.m., the latest we've ever shot an episode.
Yeah, it is. It's a little bit different today. We just got done shooting earlier, which is what you're going to see this interview in episode 15 with Peter Murphy.
Yeah.
What a guy. Yeah. What a guy. That's all I can say. He doesn't really need much of an intro. If you guys are involved with dirt track racing, especially here along the West Coast, you know who Peter Murphy is. I would say he is probably the top promoter in dirt track racing here in California, or not here in California, south of us in California. He's just doing so many great things to help 360 and 410 weekly racing, and he talks about a lot of those different things in this interview. And the main one, though, is just trying to bring sprint car racing back to a healthy state and to get the fans excited.
And more specifically, 410 sprint car racing. And just some of the things he touches on, I think you guys are really going to like to hear. Something I like, it kind of opened my eyes to a whole new thing in the way he said, in which you'll hear him say, we're here to entertain the crowd. And I've never really kind of looked at a race like that specifically. I mean, sporting events, I look at, you're competing against one another or a team.
Competition.
Right. And I never really thought maybe we're here to put on a show for the crowd. But, and we are 100%. But, when you're at the track, you're kind of just focused on, okay, we need to beat this guy, not.
Yeah, I think it's easy to kind of get in that mindset of the racing, the competitive, here to win, which that's all good stuff. There's nothing wrong with that.
100%.
But I think that's one thing that we've kind of picked up on as well lately, and that's why we create the content. It's to bring the viewers in. Right. That's why these racetracks have to have a good show to bring the audience, the people in the grandstands in. And he just he talks about having a smooth show, getting done early, and so much good stuff. He actually, this was a little bit longer phone call than we normally have. Yeah. He just had so many great things to say. So Peter Murphy, episode number 15 of Off the Track. Here it is. All right, well, this is take 2 on the interview here. We actually just started, and I made a mistake. I forgot to hit record. So joining us here today, I should say, on Off the Track, we have a pretty good ambassador for the sport of dirt track racing, someone that has seen it from many different angles as a driver, as a crew chief, and now as the owner of a speedway, the Keller Auto Speedway down in Hanford, California. Peter Murphy, thank you for joining us here today.
Yep, no worries, mate. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, and one of the first things to kind of jump into here on the episode, you guys have had your start down there. You're starting to, not have as many rules and regulations, and being able to race, have fans, have drivers. How has the start been down there at the Keller Auto Speedway for the first couple of shows that you guys have had?
Yeah, so far so good. Like you said, the health department, they make up, tiers change and all that. The colours change. We got to do whatever they say and everything. It's basically whatever they say we've got to try and comply with, and every time it does change, it changes in so many different ways. It's borders on the word ridiculous, to be honest. The different things that you have to do or you don't have to do anymore. But it has been very good. We've been very fortunate that I am actually friends with the health department in Kings County, and they've been very good to work with all this year and last year, to be honest.
A quick mention on that as well. I guess you could say, for Tanner, you can chime in on this as well. I think that crowd that we had when we went down there, that was a pretty healthy crowd, and it kind of felt like we were almost back to normal a little bit.
Yeah, it was a very healthy crowd, to be honest, because we were allowed to have fans, so to speak, this time, but the percentage wasn't very big, but we were still allowed to have 10 people per vehicle in the pit area as well, though. So whenever we ran out of what we could do this way, we definitely went the other way to make sure we had enough people in there, because, again, like we talked about before, everyone's hungry to go racing, whether it be the drivers or, the car owners. But the fans have been sitting home for such a long time now too, that they want to get out and they want to do things, It's only my opinion, but I just think, and not belittling the COVID deal, I'm sure it is dangerous. I know it's dangerous and people do, die from it, but I don't think it was necessary to shut the country down and everyone stopped doing what they're doing, So people are hungry to get back to normal. So hopefully we're starting a trend now to go back that way.
Absolutely. And I think one of the other results to that we wanted to ask you about is the car counts. When we were down there, we had 25 cars, half of those being 410s and then a couple 360s that also ran with us. But in some of your previous shows, I think your season opener, you guys saw 50 plus cars or right around in the ballpark of that. And what do you think that's part of what's also the result of, racers just wanting to race now?
Yeah, I do. And again, basically, what I think is the fact that we were very fortunate as that no one else was running on the nights that we had, and you can tell me this is right or wrong, but I do believe my track's getting good, it's getting racy, and I do think people want to be there to race. So we've been fortunate that I think people want to come to our place and race, but also, we were fortunate that nobody else was racing. So 55 cars or whatever it was, that's great numbers, but to be honest, I'd be happy with just enough for a B main. Not I'm very happy that we get that many cars because people do want to be there. But I do believe it's basically because of nowhere else to go, and everyone still is hungry.
And I think, like you touched on there, your racetrack has been really, really good. We were super happy with our first time being there, a slick surface. And, I feel like California kind of maybe has a little bit of a reputation for having some more hammer down and rough racetracks. So it was really refreshing to be at Keller and, to have a slick surface. You could run the bottom, you could run the top. You have a berm, no tractor tires, a totally safe place to race around.
Yeah.
So 100% I will, say we're pumped to get back there, and we'll talk about that a little bit later in the episode with the Peter Murphy Classic coming up. But to kind of switch gears for this show, we want to talk a little bit about, where your racing career started. So where did this journey start for you, and where did your first interest in getting, wanting to get behind the wheel of something?
Yeah, I don't know. I'm going to tell you, like my dad used to race back home in Australia. This is before I can even remember. He ran super modifieds back then. And then he retired, or, he stopped racing because, it cost a lot and he had to work for a living, So, but as I got older and looking at photos and things, and we'd always used to go to the races or the Speedway, and, just one thing led to another, and we ended up buying some really, probably what you call like 3/4 midgets, and we got into that way, and then it just sort of really took off basically from that point. I just, over there when I was a kid, you read open wheel magazines, and to look at the outlaws and people, racing sprint cars is like, man. And I come from a town called Blacktown in Australia, which I'm not sure what else actually comes out of there too often, but it's not like it's a rich place to come from, and for me to come from there was kind of a big deal for me. It definitely was, because both my parents work for a living, and to actually get out of there and come to here and race a sprint car full time, that was the goal. It was the goal I set, and it was a goal that I achieved. So I'm very fortunate with where we are.
So
That's cool.
when you first got started, would you kind of describe the racing scene where you were located? It wasn't like a popular thing to do. You kind of, I wouldn't say the word got lucky, but you ended up being in a good situation to, be on the route of becoming a race car driver, because maybe not as many people where you were at, had those ambitions.
It's hard to say, because, back in I'm going to say I started probably going to the races in the late 70s, early 80s. And this is when there wasn't, social media, and there wasn't so many things to do as there is now. Everyone wants instant gratification on what they're watching or what they're doing. Where back in the day, you didn't have to do that. And the speedways were packed, which, leading changing from then to here, I believe in, we talk about the 410s. 410s aren't strong here in California. They're not strong on this side of the country, to be honest. So I'm trying to make that come back if I can. But we can't keep doing what we've done in the past, because we've got to do things differently because the world is changing. Social media is something very big. I watch your YouTube channel. I watch things that are going on. And it's so different that we have to change. So coming from that era, basically where I came from, again, when I finally got here, there probably wasn't that many people that wanted to come here to do that. I'm going to say, like, you're probably correct there, but when I got here, there was far more cars to drive than there were drivers. Where now it's the opposite way around. So hence, changing subject yet again, my 360 series that's running at Tulare and at Hanford. If you were there and ran all year long and you win it, well, not only will you get the prize money for winning it, but I'm going to take you to New Zealand and you're going to run the car that I used to run over there. Obviously a newer car, but for a week, because the opportunities aren't there anymore. So, opportunity, I think, you've got to create it, which is what I did to get to where I was, to be over here. And I think that we're lacking in opportunities anymore, I think. I could be wrong. You can tell me different, but I just think we have to work on things. And I just think, hence, now I'm going to change subjects, talking about promoters. I don't think we promote. We don't promote enough. We don't promote. We've got to do, again, different things. We can't just settle for what is and expect to do well. So we have to work at everything we do. And the same as you racing, you can't just, oh, that was good, and don't touch your car for a week because it's not going to work next week. You have to keep working. It doesn't matter where we are, and that's just life in general anymore.
Yeah. You a quick touch on the social media side of things. Like Tanner, we can agree social media today is huge. When you came over here, how did your rides and opportunities came about? Because social media back then really wasn't the biggest thing.
No, well, when you're going back to prehistoric days there, mate. I never had a mobile phone. Like, I never had none of that when I got here. Like, and I don't think anyone did, to be honest. If I was going to call my mum and dad back home, I'd have to, wait till I got to the motel room and reverse charges it, kind of deal. It was just, it's word of mouth and being around things. Fortunately enough, I got to know Steve Kinzer when I was an apprentice engine builder in Australia. And I'm going to tell you, I was like 15, 16 maybe. And first time I came over here, I worked for him. And I actually turned 21 the first year I worked over here, and was in 1988. And I met up with them at Eldora, and we went from Eldora to Pennsylvania all the way back across to here. And I worked for nothing. I worked for free. I was just happy to be there. I slept on the floor. It just whatever I could do to work. And knowing him, and then people in Australia heard what I did, or knew what I did, and my first drive over here was actually for an Australian at Knoxville, but they didn't last for very long because they didn't have much money, but by being there, then you meet other people and just try and be friendly and honest, and if you're any good at what you do, well then people might take notice, and it just grew from there basically.
That's cool.
Kind of following a timeline of your career, you mentioned like getting over here to the States, doing pretty much anything you could to get opportunities. What were some of the other teams kind of as you went along that you got the opportunity to drive for, kind of as you worked your way back to racing a little bit here along the West Coast?
Yeah, actually, what happened was I drove being in Knoxville, I drove for a lot of different car owners in Knoxville that were pretty prominent once I got going. Once the 2AU car was the first car I drove here, once it went away, the second car that I got to drive was, and you have to look this up, it was the 12X, the Beaver Drill and Tool Company car. And that's a big car. Like it was something special, but I got to drive it. And for some reason we started, but Guy Fallbrook, I become friends with him, and he set it up. And the first night, I think we come from, out of the B, a 6 in the B to running like, I think 11th in the A maybe, I don't know. But they said, oh, let's stay. So then I hung out longer than what I probably should have, So and then they knew someone, and I drove someone else's car in I don't know where it was, somewhere in Missouri, and it just from that point it just continued on, and then to come back home and drove for someone back home again, So it just it just kept, I was just very fortunate. It just kept falling into situations that worked for us,
No, that's great to hear, and I know racing nowadays is just not necessarily like that. Like you mentioned, there's a lot of drivers and there's not really a lot of seats. But back then you had the opportunity to kind of drive a bunch of different cars, not necessarily just wing sprint cars, but non-wing and midgets and stuff like that. Did you have a favorite that you really liked to run maybe over the others?
As in the type of car, or
from
team?
from a midget or a non-wing car or a wing car.
No, I'm an idiot, and I just like racing, and I like racing on dirt. And to be honest, like when I ran wing and non-wing, a lot of people ask me, "Oh, which one do you like better?" Because you've got to be a true racer to drive, without a wing, and it's just depending on what you've driven, you'll know whether that's true or not. But they asked me, "What do you prefer?" And I would just say, "I prefer driving a sprint car." Like I like sprint cars. They're just, I had never any idea of going anywhere else. 97, I worked for Steve at the Indianapolis 500. Spent the whole month of May there, and there was ways you could have went down that road, but it not that it didn't interest me. This is what I wanted to do. My goal in life was to drive a sprint car for a living, and just by sheer work and not eating and not having any money, I got to do it for a long time. So it was just a dream come true.
That's incredible. That's awesome to hear that side of the story, because racing just has changed so much. To kind of switch gears for the episode, something you had really hit on earlier. I want to talk about you as a promoter. You had your accident in 2013, and you kind of had to make the decision of kind of going into that role of being a promoter with the Peter Murphy Classic. Kind of, was that your idea to host a race, and then also how did that race end up at Tulare?
Well, originally, like when the accident happened, there were so many things that went wrong with us, and we had to do so many. I would have up to 7 doctor's appointments in a week, just from head to knee, just brain doctors, you name it. Like, had to see psychiatrists because of depression, but in the end, I was told I couldn't race. It never really came across probably that way, but I could have raced if I wanted to be honest. But the deal was they were pretty sure that if I crash, if I make it, I'm not going to be a very healthy person, if you know what I mean. So I chose, if I was single, I probably would have had a go, like, being an absolute idiot. But I wasn't single. I'm still not single. I've got a great wife and I've got great kids. And knowing that was an absolute, like, and don't get me wrong, this as of now, this is a dangerous sport, and things can go wrong, but you don't think it's ever going to happen to you. And that's how I went through my whole life. And I've been in races where, unfortunately, friends of mine have been killed in the races and stuff like that. But you just don't think it's ever going to happen to you. So, and you can't have that in your mind to be that way, because if you do have it in your mind, you're a danger to yourself and a danger to other people. So you can't have that mindset. You've got to think that it's never going to happen. I'm going to be great, whatever. So to go back to the story, it was a year later, I think, I thought, well, man, I'd like to people kept saying things, and I retired, and everyone's maybe to put on a race, and I just had this urge to put on a race, like, because I feel like I ripped people off because the race finished at like lap 14. Everyone got out of their cars because everyone thought, I was done, and so everyone felt pretty bad, and not only all my friends that were drivers, but I'm talking about the fans and everything else, and especially, I got airlifted out of there. So, there's not too many people get airlifted out of a racetrack that survive, if you know what I mean. So, to come back, and I wanted to do something for people that, like I said, I believe I ripped them off. So, I wanted to do something at Antioch. They didn't want to do it. Steve Ferrier, he's obviously a very good friend of mine now, but I've known him forever. He says, we'll do it here. And So that's just how it started. It started off as a one-day event, then it quickly turned into a 2-day, and then, we move it around a little bit. We try to do it in July when the accident happened, right around that date. But it's so hot in Tulare and Hanford in July. It's like you don't get nobody because people, and if they do get them, they pass it out. So it's so we keep moving around, and May seems to be a good place to have it. So that's just where we've ended up, and I like doing this, promoting for my race, but the opportunity came up to maybe move the Skagit and promote the track up there, but some other people wanted to buy it. Didn't work out, but it interests me. And then I just started looking for something to do down here, and then I found Hanford, and the previous promoters, they weren't interested in leaving, but I annoyed them enough to where they thought,
Yeah.
let's sell it to him and get rid of him for a moment. So that's where we ended up.
That's great, and we're gonna get into the little more on Hanford here in just 1 second. But one thing I had to ask you before, one of the main reasons we wanted to bring you on our show here is to give the viewers a little bit more insight on the Peter Murphy Classic 1, because we are going to be heading there in a couple weeks. But just so the viewers know, what Peter Murphy was, the whole deal, and then also just to like I said, give them more of a look at the race and why we're racing it. So for this year, 2021, the race did not happen in 2020, right, because of the pandemic?
Yes, exactly.
So can you just tell the viewers real quickly, what the race looks like this year and how it's not actually just going to be at Tulare this year, but it's also going to consist of being at Hanford one of the nights?
Yeah, and it's going to be crazy because, obviously I've been hit in the head. That's what was my biggest problem was I got hit in the head by another car. So talk about that for a second. I had to learn how to take steps again. I had to learn how to have a shower. I had to learn how to tell the time. I had to learn how to do mathematics, simple mathematics. Had to relearn all that stuff. So I'm just putting that there so you understand that my head is damaged, yet now I've got all these messed up ideas, which you come down for the Peter Murphy, you're going to find out that I don't try and do anything normal. I'm trying to make everything different. I'm trying to make everyone excited about everything that we're doing. So this year, we changed it from last time we did do it, being both days at Tulare, but now we are a promoter as well. But we work so well with them. Now we want to get a Friday here, Saturday there. But like if you're there in the 410s, the option's going to be there. If it's going to be like it was last time. It's going to be 2 heat races. You're not going to qualify the first night, but the second night you will. And the 360s are going to be here. They're going to qualify the first night, but the second night they won't. So it's just going to be, it's going to mess things up a little bit. But, the idea I have for the 410s, and maybe the 362, I haven't figured it out exactly yet. But all this is just pencil right now. But if you were to win or the top 4 from Friday night at Hanford in the 410s, you're gonna be locked into Saturday night at Tulare. But you have the choice to take it, or you can, say, no, I don't want to do it, and then you've got to go there, and you've got to qualify, and you've got to run your heat race, you've got to do everything to get into the show like you normally would. Whereas right now, the top 4 are going to be locked in, but they're going to be locked into 7, 8, 9, and 10. That's where you're locked into. So you might not want to be locked in there, but maybe you do. So once they, King of the West is going to be the second night, and they're going to do how they normally do things, qualifying and heat races to make their dash. But the dash is going to be a pole shuffle because that's just what we do, because it's what we do in Australia and New Zealand, and everyone seems to like it. So if you were the top 4 from the last night, before the dash comes out or the pole shuffle comes out, you're going to come out and you're going to qualify. Like you're going to qualify against them 4 cars. So the fastest 2 are going to tag onto the back of the pole shuffle. The other 2, well, they're just going to start out at 9 and 10. So you've got to, weigh up your options when it's time on Friday night. You've got to choose Friday what you're going to do, and then move into that day. So say if you were the second quickest, you're going to start last in the pole shuffle, but you're going to go against the guy that, was quick time there, and then see if you can beat him, and then so on. You still got the opportunity to work your way all the way to the front, basically, if you're any good. So I just, got to do things differently. So if you want to know what's going on, that's what's probably going to go on. And the night before, we're going to do a dash just like we did this week, and when you were there, sorry. And it's going to be like it's the revenge draw, where you'll pick if you're the first person to pick. No matter where you pick, you don't get to keep what you pick. You've got to give it to someone else. So if you pick an 8, maybe you'll give it to Dominic Selzy. If you pick a 1, who are you going to pick? You've got to pick.
You might be giving the 1 to me.
Exactly. But if you pick it, you can't. You can't keep it. That's the whole thing. So, and again, that just changes things up a little bit. And the crowd, we did it last race when you were there, and the crowd was so involved and loved it. So, the biggest thing is that we, and you have to understand, and which I'm sure you already know this, you two guys, is the fact that we are entertainers, and we've got to entertain. We've got to entertain the people, because if we don't entertain them, they won't come back. And without them, we're not going to have racing. So,
and that's something to really, really touch on. How you said how important it is. But one of the things that we've really seen go on down at your racetrack, the Keller Auto Speedway, compared to maybe some of the rest of California, just from observing over the last couple of years, a lot of tracks, and not actually, I should say, just along the West Coast in California, but even in different parts of the country, I don't want to say stale is the word, but, just a lot of the same things every single year. We're not seeing a lot of change maybe, or things to, make improvements. But, one of the things I noticed being down at your racetrack and just listening to what you said there, trying to do different formats, do different things to keep the fans entertained, and also have a quick and efficient show. So, we're not sitting there all night long.
Yeah, that's the whole thing. And, I'm trying to, I'm trying to do a deal like we do in New Zealand and Australia, to where, the podium is in the pit area. I'm going to keep working at it for a little while. And if it doesn't work eventually, I'll give up and I'll go back to where we were. But so everything that I'm doing, whether it's a format, whether it's whatever, nothing is set in concrete. And if it doesn't work, well, then I'll change it. But if it does work, well, then I'll perfect it. I'll keep working along that line. So I want people to come in the pit area. I want, champagne. We'll do the interviews on the front straight away for the winner, and then we'll come back to the pit area. And I'm trying to create atmosphere down in there. I want people to come and I have champagne. I want people to get wet with champagne, and I want people to be a part of the winning. And then they can go and buy T-shirts from, your trailers and things, and look inside them, all that kind of stuff. It's just, we just got to keep doing things that keep people interested. Like we said before, social media is, anymore, everything you want is on your phone. So even my heat races, it's traditionally everyone does 8-lap heat races. And it's like, well, why do we do that? Like, to me, at my place especially, after 3 laps, it is what it is. Unless we do the deal where we got it all mixed up, where we just draw, so we can flip them around. It creates it a little bit better. But still, even them, we only run them at 6 laps, because they're called sprint cars. They've got to go, and it's just wherever you finish. Points are accumulated, and bang, there you are. Again, it's just different. And it's if you ever to sit up in the grandstands and you had an 8-lap heat race and it was fastest from the front, within 3 laps, 4 laps, you look down at the crowd and everyone's on their phone.
I was going to say, I think we're going to have to change your name to Mr. Excitement, because all those ideas are pretty cool. I think that whole champagne thing in the pit area, like the celebration on the podium, I think that'd be pretty cool, because I don't think any other track really has that on the West Coast.
No, and again, I'm not saying that it's right or wrong, but I'm going to try it until I think I've flogged the dead horse, and then I'll move it and I'll do something else. Because, at Tulare, they always used to do it on the track, and after the races at Tulare, everyone would walk on the track. So it was hard to see where the interviews were being taken place and everything like that. So for my race forward, I built a podium. So it was on the opposite side of the fence, next to the grandstand. It's a 10 by 20, whatever. And everyone stands there, and people come up and they're a part of that. So I'm trying to recreate that, but I'm trying to do it in the pit. Just because, again, just be different and create some atmosphere down in there. And, once we get open, maybe we'll have a live band down there or something after the race. I don't know. But again, all that being said, we have to be done on time. We have to be done by 10. I want to be like by 9:30, quarter to 10. That's when I want to be done. So, you just got to keep working at these things, and obviously everything's not perfect, but we just got to keep trying. That's all I believe.
And it seems like a lot of these ideas are possibly coming from, you mentioned Australia and New Zealand. Would you say, since you've got the chance to run over there quite a few times, that they do a lot of these things very well to keep their fans, entertained and want to come back to the racetrack and making it more of an event?
Yeah, it has to be an event. We can't just do, like what we've already talked about. Now, the last race that I raced in New Zealand, and I'm going to tell you, I'm going to blow my trumpet here. I won. It was in front of 19,000 people.
Wow,
that's incredible.
At Western Springs. Now, this is a town. Oh, this is in 2013, so the social media was already there. But to have that in front of that many people, the atmosphere is unbelievable. It's just hard to describe how. So I think you can take things from Western Springs, from Palmerston North, from Bay Park, from wherever you want to go over there to Sydney in Australia, to Warrnambool, to Mount Gambier, to over in Perth at Bunbury, anywhere over there. But you can go all the way across here to Port Royal to see what they do. Like this, you can take something from everywhere and just make your place, a little bit more unique, a little bit different. But and people will, because my next goal is at my track is, I say Port Royal because I love their infield and where they got people in there. So I've only just started. When you were there, I had 3 K rails to put up. I'm going to put a fence around in the middle. It's it's about 120 feet off the track, but I'm going to put a fence around in there and allow people to stand in there. Obviously, they'll charge them a little bit more or whatever. I'm going to have food in there, and they'll be in there. And just because, as you know, it's a different perspective from being in there. It's just different. So why not give someone? I've been allowed to do this by the insurance companies as long as I do, X, Y, and Z, and so that's my goal is to do that as well. So again, it just got to be different,
Gotcha.
No, that is.
But picking up things from other people, like you said, from New Zealand, I think you can learn a lot from New Zealand and Australia because they put on a show, and you can learn so many different things, aspects from Knoxville, from Skagit, from all the big places across the country here. You just got to pick what you think will suit you and have a go.
Yeah, that is phenomenal, and I can't wait to kind of see, where the Kings/Keller Auto Speedway is going to be here in just the next 5 years, because it sounds like you guys have a lot planned. We covered pretty much most of the things that I had here in my notes. It was awesome to hear you talk about the different things. Real quickly, though, we did a bunch of research for this interview, and my friend Bennett, he had a couple questions on some of the awesome things you did in the timeline of your career behind the wheel of a race car. Bennett, take it over.
Yeah, so I saw here in '98 you ran with the NARC series, King, and you actually were Rookie of the Year that year, correct?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's a long time ago, but yes.
This is kind of crazy, and I think me and Tanner were kind of shocked when we both learned this. You raced at the Cal Expo Mile, and I know where that's at now. They race horses there, but you raced that in a 410 wing sprint car.
Yep.
What was that like? And you actually set quick time that year as well.
Yeah, no, we still hold the lap record there. They don't run there anymore, obviously. What was it like? It was just it was scary fast. It was so fast. But down the straightaway, you were never in the tires. It just sort of walked around, the whole way down the front straightaway until you went into the corner, and just you got some air on the top sideboard there, and then it would pull the car down, and everything would stiffen up. As in the steering was hard to turn it, but it was just extremely. It was something that I was very fortunate to do. Very thankful I did get to do it, and yeah, I'm glad we finally won there at the end because it was just something that it just come very naturally to me to do this place, and I loved it. So yeah, it was good.
That's cool. Yeah, I was definitely shocked to see that we had a mile on the West Coast, and to see that you had won there and set quick time. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it was like and they're doing these times at Bristol average, obviously, but it was 142 point something mile an hour average, and it was 175 on the radar gun. So that's what they tell me. There was a radar gun there, so obviously it was pretty quick. So but it was just a lot of fun. It was something that I was very, very happy to have done.
Cool.
Well, Peter, thank you so much for taking the time to do this interview today. You had a phenomenal career behind the wheel, and you're doing huge things to change the sprint car scene here along the West Coast. So I can't wait to see what Keller Auto looks like here as you continue to make improvements and make it one of the best tracks we have here locally or close. And hopefully a lot of other tracks take notice and decide to do the same things and kind of, change things up.
yeah, I'm more worried about ourselves and trying to do what we do, but my goal is I want to be the number one track in California if I can get it. So this is my goal, and I think it's a goal that I think every racetrack here needs to be that way. So because they'll keep improving, So, yeah, we'll see. I'm very fortunate that this is still my passion, and it's not work when it's your passion.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, we will see you down south in a couple of weeks. We will be joining you for 2 nights of the Peter Murphy Classic at Hanford and the other night at Tulare. So thank you so much for doing this interview, and have a nice night.
Thank you.
No worries, mate. Thank you. Thanks, guys. Cheers.
So it was awesome to have Peter call in here for episode number 15. One of the main things we're trying to do with this podcast, obviously it gives you guys like a longer form piece of content, for us to have real discussions with other racers, for us to really go deeper into what's going on our weekends. And one of the new things we're trying to do, and we attempted to do this with Peter, was do a video chat, which is like, through the software, it brings them in. You guys are able to see them. We said it's more personable, that kind of type thing. And it didn't work. So we just went back to our normal phone call, which is fine. We're kind of experimenting with it. And we did the first, what was it? The first
I think it was like 4 minutes.
Yeah, it was the first 2 or 4 minutes of the episode. And we had to reshoot it because I forgot to hit the record button.
Yeah, so that was funny. And Tanner was sitting next to me and he's like trying to tell me something. Normally we have this kind of like, just like mind wave signal and who's going to talk next. And I thought he was trying to do that. And I was like, yeah, just go talk. Like, it's fine. But no, he was trying to tell me like, oh, we got to stop him. We didn't record. But nonetheless, still, you guys didn't miss any of the content with Peter. What a great guy. He had a lot of cool topics to talk about. And I think the one thing that I took away that I really enjoyed about his conversation with us was the podium finish thing in the pit area and how he wants to include like confetti, champagne. He wants to make it this grand thing. So when the races are over, you roll the car, I assume, to the podium, or the top 3 go to the podium.
Not just the winner. Even.
Yeah. And all the fans can come over and it'll be in the pit area at Keller Auto Speedway or Hanford. And you guys will get to watch everyone celebrate. And he wants the winner to be spraying champagne, which I think that's super cool.
I thought that idea was incredible as well, because so when I first heard him talk about it, I was thinking, and I was like, man, that doesn't make any sense, because the winner's on the front straightaway, the fans are right there. But then I was like, oh, that is the idea to get people to the pits, which therefore you maybe have more entertainment. He doesn't want the night to end at the checkered flag, right. which is perfect. Because therefore, if fans go to victory lane, they see the top 3, they might see more trailers, everything. It kind of adds to the experience, and then that not only benefits them because it gives them that side of the experience, that after the race deal, because we're trying to get the races done early. It also helps the racers because those guys could potentially buy T-shirts. You could make fans, lifelong fans that maybe want to support you, and you never really know who's in the stands. That could be a potential sponsor that you're talking to that walks up to your trailer and you really have no idea. So I think what Peter Murphy is trying to do, that was the one thing I picked up on as well. He just has so many ideas. Also, when he mentioned maybe adding like a VIP, like it costs a little more, but you can watch the races.
Port Royal,
You can watch the races from the infield and, have like a snack shack or something there with food and just another way because of that, that different angle of watching from the infield versus, outside in the main grandstand. So many cool ideas. I just think Keller Auto Speedway is going to be top notch the next couple of years.
What I think is kind of cool about that as well. When's the last time you've went to a dirt track and you're like, okay, bring the champagne with us? Never, right?
Never.
And so in NASCAR,
they don't make it a big deal.
Right. In NASCAR, or when you go to victory lane, usually on asphalt, you roll into victory lane and you got the banner behind you and there's champagne and confetti, and there's some occasions on dirt like Kings Royal, a huge event, right?
Bigger events.
Whereas he wants to bring that on a local scale that's a lot more personal, and I think that's really unique.
That's how it should be.
That's how it should be, because like if you win, I mean, that's a pretty big deal, and if you get all the fans down there and they provide champagne, why not celebrate?
Well, dirt racing too really needs that. Like, we need local heroes. That's what dirt racing is kind of built on. Like, some people say we should not be like grassroots or whatever, but like at the end of the day, we kind of are like a grassroots. But dirt racing needs its local heroes, and that's how we bring fans, young and old, because they want to come back and they want to watch that, just using our names, for example, like, if Tanner Holmes, I guess you use my name, you say, I want to watch Tanner Holmes every single week at the Keller Auto Speedway because, for example, he's from Hanford, that's his home track, whatever. Like, if we were, that's what we want for Cottage Grove or Southern Oregon Speedway or something like that. So we got to build these local heroes at every single track. And then you have the out of town guys that come in and face, there's so many scenarios.
It's just like the posse, people that people that come in and try to face the posse, and it's always that rivalry type thing. It's all friendly,
and he brought up PA as one of the places that does it best. And that's why like in central Pennsylvania, they have so much good racing at many different tracks, but also they've built that loyal fan base and people that are going to spend their hard-earned money to go to the racetrack, to spend money at concession, at the driver's trailers, or they're going to spend money on something to go against someone else if they can.
And that's the funny thing too. I really picked up on it last year. Kyle Larson, obviously, I could definitely confidently say he was the fan favorite.
Yeah.
But you're just not going to knock down the PA Posse fans because they were even going against Kyle Larson. Like, he's not just going to show up here and win against our drivers. And I think if we start building that in the 410 scene on the West Coast like Peter intends to, I think that's going to be pretty cool. And one more thing that Peter said that's really unique, I think, him as a promoter, and I think this is what kind of maybe sets him aside from everyone else. He said this, you can learn from everybody. He was talking about learning from, Cottage Grove, Skagit, all these places, like you said, all the tracks in the Midwest. You can learn, take the best thing from each track, apply it to your facility, and that's just how you grow.
Absolutely. I think it's going to be cool to see what the Keller Auto or King Speedway, whatever you want to call it, ends up looking like. And just the fact that, they don't have a whole lot of races. Like, they're not racing every single week, but, when they do, they have good events with 2 to 3 classes, fast shows, and it really keeps people coming back. So hopefully, actually, some people listen to this interview, listen to Peter talk and the intelligence and the knowledge that he has. And, I think that his model of doing things and how I think it's going to be super successful. So that was awesome to have Peter Murphy on. Let us know which guests you want to see next here on Off the Track. We really like getting a variety of, promoters to hear that perspective, drivers to hear what it's like to be behind the wheel, or even crew chiefs, car chiefs, and, anybody involved with the sport. I think the next thing now to talk about is our weekend. So first off, my weekend was nothing exciting. We ran at the Cottage Grove Speedway for night number 1 of the Spring Fling. Night number 2 rained out, so it wasn't, we only got one night of racing in. Ran third. The whole night was kind of just normal, like qualified 6th, 5th to 3rd in the heat race, drew a 6. Man, my pill skills have not been great since I got into wing sprint car racing. And then ended up going 5th to 3rd in the A main event. Had an issue about 10 laps in where our right rear got sliced by something. We were kind of wondering. The car in front of me blew up actually, and maybe when some of the stuff was coming apart in his engine, maybe I ran over debris or something like that. But ended up still running 3rd. Had a flat right rear, decent speed. Kind of a weird night at Cottage Grove, super hooked up. But you, on the other hand, had a exciting, crazy, there's so many words that could describe your weekend. Do you want to talk about it?
Yeah, so a couple, I'd say like maybe 4 or 5 weeks ago, Josh Smith made a post on Facebook saying, hey, I have a car to race if anyone wants.
Another racer from the Red Bluff Outlaws.
And he's also the promoter at Hayfork Mountain Valley Speedway, and he made a post saying, I have a car if someone wants to race it. And so I commented, I want to race it. And so I didn't know what it was at the time. And so I got to the track and I started to realize after watching some past videos, this is a demolition derby oval style. And I got my car and watching some of these other cars show up and talking to some of the other competitors. Everyone up there was great, by the way, super nice people. They were like, you got to watch out for these so-called derby cars. And I don't know, have you seen a derby car?
A little bit.
They're just mangled vehicles welded on with bars, pipes that big, built to kill any other car on the track, right? And I'm in this stock Honda Civic with a roll cage, and so it was a safe car for sure. But I was looking at it, I was like, these guys got freaking war machines. How am I gonna be able to do anything against these things? And there were SUVs, and then there's 2 derby cars, two or three SUVs, and then like another Civic type thing like mine. And so I was like, what do I what do I do against these guys? And I talked to Josh a little bit, and he's like, the key to win this is protect your front end because I'm a front wheel drive car, and I'm going to be way faster. And so that's what we did at the main, or right before the main rolled out. You start facing turn 3 on the front stretch, and you have to back out and then go. Well, I told Josh, I said, can I snake these guys and go out forward and try to get a jump on them? He's like, yeah, go for it. So that's what I ended up doing, and we just escaped pretty quick. And then people that don't know, on the front stretch, there's called a flagpole. Do you know what a flagpole is?
Yeah.
So you come around it, and you have to make a loop and keep going. So that is where the mayhem happens.
That's where someone tries to get you.
Yeah, and there's also a chicane on the back with infield tractor tires, and we all know infield tractor tires
They don't
kill
move.
you. Yeah, they don't move. So, after dodging that, I broke away from the pack in my car. I was way faster than everyone, like stupid fast. And I just used my racecraft, I guess you could say, to dodge people. And I didn't want to just be the guy dodging people. So I started to chop people and stick my nose where it definitely didn't belong, and it bit me twice. One of the guys in the SUV just killed my left side, as you see in my video. The car rolling back was rolling this way because my rear end came all the way out on the left side. Like the wheel, I don't even know how it was still on. But it was a lot of fun. The great fans up there, they were going nuts over it. I burnt it down. That was probably my favorite part. And that's funny, too, is a lot of people are asking, did you put it in like first gear or something to bang the chip? That was wide open. So I had a V6. So
because you did like a little victory lap, right?
A victory lap. And if you hold it wide open, you can just spin the tires the whole way. And during the race, you didn't want to do that because I did it. I made 2 mistakes. You have to pull a red flag to get people out of their cars when their car dies, but they leave the dead car on the track for a obstacle. And so we pulled a red flag, and I was stopped next to this guy, and I'm like, oh crap, here we go. He's just going to chop me and destroy my front end. Well, I punched it when the green went, and I literally just stood still spinning the tires. So you actually had to have throttle control so you didn't smoke the tires. But no, it was a lot of fun. We got it done, and I was pretty nervous because those guys are veterans up there. They've been racing them all the time. So I've got one Enduro Mayhem race under my belt and 1 win. So I think our record's looking pretty good.
100% win ratio. That's pretty good. And shout out to Chase
Smith Motorsports.
Chase Smith Motorsports and the Smith family for giving you that opportunity, man. That's so cool. And, we're hoping, man, maybe if our schedule's open, I would actually like to go. I had a lot of fun watching the vlog. There's a slim chance me and Tanner are looking at we might be able to get to go up together and do it. So we'll see.
That's in the works. That's a long ways away, though. That's way later in the year. So it really just depends how our seasons are looking and what our time is.
Yeah, we would be down to run anything as long as it fits. We have our set racing schedules, and we obviously take those seriously, and those are races. We're going to have fun, create content, but at the end of the day, racers are here to win. But it is kind of cool if you can throw something like that in the schedule, have fun, possibly make new fans. And because Hayfork, where that's a smaller community in Northern California,
2,000 people or something.
2 to 4, it's not very big. I was doing some research when you said you were going to go there, but so a place that doesn't have a lot of dirt track racing where we can maybe bring them in if you could say.
They do have a couple open shows and a fair race that pay $1,000 to win for their hobby stocks and sport mods. So. Maybe give that a look if you got something kind of in the northern part of California or, southern Oregon area.
Where there's not a lot of racing.
Yeah, it's not too far away. Look at their schedule at Mountain Valley Speedway, and you could maybe tag one of those shows, $1,000 to win.
Yeah, so that's kind of a recap of our weekends. Awesome to have an addition to the studio, and we're hoping, as we've been saying, just keep adding stuff. We have trophies like that, which are pretty sick trophy for an enduro race.
Yeah.
Something that you can kind of add here into the studio. That's, though, going to kind of wrap up episode number 15.
Yeah.
As far as this weekend goes, though, honestly, I'm not really sure what our game plan is. Originally, Carly was supposed to run the Cottage Grove Speedway for the Limited, so that was going to be cool to get her second race under her belt of the season, but it looks like it's going to rain out. So we might look at some other alternatives for racing. I know Chico has a 2-day show for 360s. I think Friday's the Bill Brownell Memorial, which is a fairly large race. It's going to attract a lot of cars. And then Saturday, I think, is a Sprint Car Challenge Tour race there. So a doubleheader. You might see us there. I don't know. You'll definitely know on the YouTube channel, though, before we'll announce. I just don't know right now if we're going to do it or not, or, maybe the weather changes at Cottage Grove. But what's your weekend looking like?
I'm thinking if we can get a new harness for the Dwarf car in time, or we can fix whatever wiring issue we got going on. We'll be racing Wairika for a Southern Oregon Dwarf Car Association Series race. If that doesn't happen, I'll be seeing you in Chico probably if you go.
Yeah, so it's gonna be a good weekend. Like I talked about, May. It's we have some options on different places we can race, but I know for sure our racing schedule really ramps up in June. And I actually just released our full schedule, which I'll link in the description down below. If you guys want to see where we're gonna be at for 2021, it's easy for some of that to change just because weather plays a big factor into that, and then also as we do start traveling to some of these different locations, there's other tracks in the area that sometimes how things just happen and other places look more appealing. So that's going to wrap up, though, episode number 15. We had Peter Murphy on. We talked about our weekends, and we cannot wait to have more guests on here in the future as we continue to get more into this podcasting thing. So if you guys want to, you can also listen on audio on Spotify and Apple Podcast, or every single Wednesday right here on the Off the Track YouTube channel at 3:30 p.m. See you guys all in the next one.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, you are watching Off the Track, and it is time to drop the hammer.